pro. With the power of Tandem HR, you are in the fast lane on Main Street with Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business and jobs. Now, the champion of networking, the advocate of jobs, the guru of business, your host, Shalom Klein.
Bill Gates once said, your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. I agree with that one. We are all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship and business. We talk a lot about business here. You are on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. And while you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you won't want to miss. It's a live show. This week, it's all about success. And this week, we will be joined by guest Andy Crestodina, State Representative Will Guzzardi, and Charlie Harari, along with the new Playmaker Spotlight. And I'll be sharing some tips on event management. Get Down to Business is powered by Tandem HR, your solution center. You can find them at tandemhr.com or call 630-928-0510, 630-928-0510. You can also email them, simplify@tandemhr.com. You could call us live with your questions at 312-642-5600. And if you're looking for a good networking event this week, we've got one for you. Check it out. We've got a speed networking event this Tuesday. Check out all the information on my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you can download podcasts from the show. So first up on Get Down to Business is a fellow who I think we have a lot of mutual connections. That's what I keep hearing. Andy Crestodina, thanks for joining us on Get Down to Business.
Glad to be here.
So, Andy, we have a lot of shared connections. That's probably because you're very good at what you're doing. You're a web marketing strategist. You're a guru, as many people have told me. Tell me a little bit about what you do and why people think so highly of you.
Well, I've been doing it a long time. We started back in 2000 and 2001. Basically, I was the designer. My buddy was the programmer. We just built websites. But it wasn't long before we realized that we really needed to do more than just build the site. We had to help people with the marketing of the site, at least from a knowledge perspective, just passing along the tricks and tips that we knew. So I had to ramp up fast and learn search. I had to learn social media. I had to learn email marketing. I had to learn analytics. So it's been about 8 years. I've been teaching and writing and speaking at conferences. I wrote a book about this stuff. So it's kind of just hands-on.
That's great. And on your website, you write that it's both an art and a science. And I think what you just summed up, saying all the different pieces, the analytics, the email marketing, the search, everything, that sort of sums it up. That's what it's all about. There's so many different aspects of web marketing, and I guess you've sort of mastered it all.
Well, that's what I love about it. I love that it's a combination of art and science. It's both creative and it's technical. You know, you've got to make something. That's a creative process. There's a lot that goes into that, just like we're doing something now, kind of creating something. But there's a technical piece that goes into promoting it, into measuring the results from it. So it really helps if you're kind of center-brained or, you know, you love both of those two aspects of things.
So what is Orbit Media?
Web design company.
Okay, so it's more than just you now. I know you've started it and you've learned the ropes as you've gone, but now you've turned it into a little machine. Tell us about the company.
Well, there are officially, I think, 38 of us. This is year 14 or 15. We're getting up there now. We have a lot of different specialists. There's 13 different developers. There are 7 designers. There's 6 project managers. There's a support team. There's strategists. We've got a chief executive. We've got
That's
managers.
A lot of people.
It is. It's a lot of overhead, but it's a lot of talent.
So you've learned beyond web and marketing, you've learned a lot about running a business and being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And that's another hands-on thing, right? It's hard to, I don't know, I guess you can study it, but I never did.
What's the greatest challenge that you have?
Wow. Well, first of all, it's a people industry. So you got to, like any service industry, you just got to love people. You got to take care of everyone. You got to really care about their results. It's a huge, huge piece of it. But then, there's everything else. There's all the new business challenges that come with the service industry, right? You got to keep clients coming in. You got to do the marketing side, and then you got to do the delivery. You got to, there's so many different technical challenges.
Can't forget the delivery. You can focus so much on attracting the clients, but you actually have to perform a service, don't you?
Well, if you don't, then you're not going to attract the next client because, like everything else, it's all based on referrals.
It sure is. So what is your degree in?
Mandarin. I studied Chinese, which is totally unrelated.
Mandarin, that I'm sure serves you very, very well right now.
Do you speak any? We could try it out.
No, I don't, but
sorry.
Maybe some of our callers can let us know if you speak Mandarin, and you could totally confuse us. 312-642-5600. So I think probably that degree in Mandarin probably has been interesting in probably helping you teach a little bit.
Well, two things, right? First of all, that's communication, and it's all about communication. But I also learned to become a teacher because I was studying. I didn't know what I would do with it, so I got a certificate to teach. So I was learning curriculum development and lesson plans, and everything's based on a learning objective. Really, the best and I use it all the time because great marketing is great teaching.
And with Orbit Media, you're frequently not just practicing and performing services for your clients, but you're actually educating people. You have a newsletter, of course, before the end of the segment, we'll make sure people can get a hold of you. But you've actually written a book, I believe.
You got to do that. You got to really put yourself out there. You'll never be a thought leader unless you publish the things that you know. And here's a mistake that a lot of people make. They're experts, right? So many listeners, so many people you know. I mean, everyone's an expert in something. But they don't really ever put that info out there. So they never really get to be a thought leader or take a position or attract an audience because all their great advice is just sitting there in their sent mail folder in their outbox, and they just never put it on their website. They never publish it.
And probably the reason that you've made it onto the Tech 50 from Crain's Chicago Business, the top 100 digital marketing experts in AdSpring, and the top 100 content marketing thought leaders on analytics is probably because you do all these things, which is important. So, Andy Crestodina of Orbit Media, you've taught us a lot so far, but what is the one bit of advice and information that if our listeners can take something away from this show today that you would recommend that they implement tomorrow morning, Monday morning when they come into the office?
Sure. It's empathy. Here's my best piece of advice. Pretend that you don't know anything about the business, anything about the company. Just look at the site with fresh eyes, like a newborn baby and visiting your own website. Go through the buyer journey completely. Don't even start at your site. Start at Google. Imagine that you're a prospect looking for that service and just go through the whole thing. Go through from the first thing you type into Google to the thank you page after the lead generation form. And just look, and you'll find all kinds of friction. You'll find all kinds of confusion, mixed messages. So really, if you just take empathy wins. Just look at it all with fresh eyes and a completely empathetic perspective, and you'll learn a lot.
That makes a lot of sense. How important is asking for advice?
Well, there are people who have learned everything you're trying to learn the hard way. So you've got to get out there. You've got to find people that have dealt with the things you've done, and then slowly bring them into your network, build their trust, and hopefully bend their ear and learn a bit.
Andy, what groups are you involved in that you network with, that you ask people for advice in, that you can recommend to our listeners?
Oh, boy, I've been in every different kind of group. You mentioned speed networking. I've done that. I've done the Leads Exchange groups. I've done Chambers of Commerce. I've done Vistage and CEO peer exchange groups. Right now, I'm in the Illinois Technology Association, and those events are great. I'm a huge advocate of face-to-face events. I meet a lot of peers and learn a lot of marketing from the big conferences, social media marketing world, content marketing world. I travel around to these. And then I'm also in the Economic Club of Chicago, which is amazing networking, and there's brilliant people there. I'm just starting to kind of tap some of the knowledge there, but really excited about it.
We've talked a lot about business networking and the tools that you provide for businesses that are putting up a site, and you talked about the process that you recommend for our listeners and sort of starting from scratch, that empathy, looking at a site, looking at the web presence from start to finish. What about for our listeners that might be searching for their opportunity, a college student perhaps that's looking to get into web content marketing and so on? Is it a good field to be in?
Oh, it's a great field. There's something for everybody in this field. It's growing fast, a ton of opportunities.
That's great. And you mentioned that your company has grown. You now have, I believe, close to 30 people, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. Is Chicago a good space to run a business like Orbit Media?
It is. I mean, and your listeners are paying close attention to this, and we all worry about the long-term economic environment here with kind of the state of the government paying its bills. We're all worried about it. But I got to say, it really is. It really is a great place to do these things because it's a hugely just diverse economy, right? There's every industry here. There are brilliant people in every field. Chicago is a fantastic place to do all kinds of things, and I think in the long run, we're going to do really well. I
think so, too. And a lot of it has to do with the people. Really good people. And as you said, the diversity, which is great. And tax environment aside, which I know we could do a little bit of work on, or maybe a lot of bit of work. We'll talk with State Representative Will Guzzardi in just a few minutes. But it really is about the people and the network and the relationships that you can build. So, Andy Crestodina, thanks for joining us on Get Down to Business. You've mentioned a lot of good tips, tools. I know a lot of that's available on your website, in your newsletter. How can people get a hold of you?
Orbitmedia.com. You'll find the blog there. The newsletter is just every other week, so we're not going to bomb your inbox. You can find me on any of the social media networks. Just Andy Crestodina, spelled like it sounds. Find me online, and feel free to ask me anything.
Fantastic. Orbitmedia.com. Andy, great advice. We'll be sure to follow your progress and check back in with you. Get Down to Business is powered by Tandem HR, your solution center. I check out their website all the time for new tips, advice, and information. TandemHR.com or call 630-928-0510. Get Down to Business is also brought to you in part by Everett Wealth Solutions, a registered investment advisor and financial planning firm, a fiduciary advisor that helps you create your personal wealth. You can find them at everettwealthsolutions.com or call 708-771-7777. Coming up, we're going to check in with executive business coach and award-winning Vistage Chair, Dick Smith. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Get Down to Business. Get on my website, shalomklein.com, where you can find out information about this Tuesday's speed networking event and download podcasts from the show.
Stuck